going on? Hope everyone's good, hope everyone's well. Obviously it is Tuesday morning, bright and early. We have just seen in the last kind of half an hour some data come out surrounding the euro. So we've actually just seen the French PMI, final PMI data. That came out a little bit more positive than was expected to. And as a result, obviously, what we have seen is a push to the upside on the euro. This isn't a great thing because it's happened across Euro Oz and Euro USD, both of which I am in positions on. So it's not the most welcomed news, considering there's certainly considering there's this morning when I woke up, both positions were running in profit. So it is what it is, though. We finally got below that 1920 region, but we haven't managed to sustain that push as things stand at the moment. We're still just chilling around that area, so we do need to get back below 1920 to hold any hopes of a potential short on the pair. We were looking pretty good yesterday with the swings that we had seen form. Things were starting to look a little bit more positive. Obviously, we have then started to see that that hasn't quite gone to plan. We have seen that push back up in the last kind of, well, we saw it overnight. And obviously, as we've started into this new, into this 4-hour window, we're starting to see rejection away from 119.20. So obviously, we now start to need to wonder whether or not the long is the more likely option. Now, having not looked all the way through the euro pairs at the moment, I don't know how the rest of the euro looks, but my initial thoughts and reaction on it would be that it all looks very, very similar. I'm sure euro yen looks similar as well. It's a bit of a killer, really, because yesterday we saw quite a nice situation start to occur surrounding Euro USD. We started to see this consolidation. We were getting signs that we were going to break to the downside. Everything was looking very positive for downside movement this morning, and then obviously from there we have faltered and stalled ever so slightly. So it's not ideal in that sense, but again, on the same token, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. We just need to react and adjust. Now, at the moment, I think 1940 is where I'm going to probably look to cut out of the position if we continue with the momentum and continue in the way that we seem to be looking at the moment. It makes little sense to be involved past that level. Past that level, I can imagine that we're starting to head back towards that 119.80 or 120 area altogether. So for all the time that we are trading in and around that area, and obviously we're failing to get above, then it makes perfect sense for us to not really be too interested in what happens until we break above. If we can break above, then obviously we turn attentions to the long. If we stay below, then obviously as things stand at the moment, it makes perfect sense to continue to look towards that short down to 118.80. Like everything, nothing is a given though, so we need to be very patient. Euro Oz, as I said, is the other pair that I am in currently. Now, I think this is also a weakening of the Australian dollar in general. Pound Oz we'll get to in a minute though, that's looking very positive. With obviously it being a weakening of the Australian dollar and a combination of the euro strengthening up, what we are seeing is obviously quite a significant push to the upside. Like I said, I was short. We had a lovely chance to enter yesterday, and we got another brilliant chance to enter yesterday also, when we saw massive rejection back to the downside. Got involved in the position, happy days. Everything looked to be running pretty good. We were nicely in profit when I woke up this morning. as I say, that the market has a funny way of flipping on its head. However, we still let the position run. We're not too far in a loss. We're about 20-25 pips at the moment, so we will let it go. We have a decent target on the pair, so we will see how we go. The only problem being here is that we've now broken back inside of this previous range, and when we've got this previous range situation, we need to be obviously very, very mindful and very careful surrounding this at the moment. If we were to, we can just pull that up, start to see this little range situation that we have been in previously. You see that we've got these previous lows, and obviously we've got these highs that we need to be very mindful of at the moment. So we're in a situation where we do need to be careful, and we do need to be very mindful of these. If we continue to reject the way and head towards 54.50, then I will have been stopped out in the position, and so be it. It's not too bad. It will be literally about a 0.2% loss, so it's not neither here nor there in regards to that, but it's not obviously looking great. The fact that we've had the Aussie dollar weaken off this morning, and then obviously the euro strengthen up, is obviously both accumulating in that above 54.50, then obviously it would make sense for us to consider the potential for the long positions. That's only natural, I think. If we can break back below 54.10, then I would actually be pretty content to look at potentially adding another position, and then looking to continue to ride that down to 53.50. Looking to bank that 60 pips on the way. So there's potential within the pair. We just need to be a little bit patient, I think. Let it do its thing this morning. Let the markets digest to the PMI data. Whilst it's positive, it's not amazingly positive. It's nothing that's going to wow the world. So it would be worth us just kind of sticking to our guns as things stand at the moment, and looking at what may potentially happen next, rather than getting too caught up in what is going on currently. So we'll see what happens in the next half an hour to an hour, and see what kind of closes we get, and we can go from there really. New Zealand USD, we saw obviously the dollar strengthen up first thing this morning. You can see with the euro dollar, and even gold, we saw massive pushes first thing this morning. And we've seen that with the New Zealand dollar. We've also then just seen that doji formation come into play. So if that continues and we continue to see a doji pattern come into play here, some strength back into the market with buyers, then it would probably be worth us turning attentions and looking for potential longs. Whether or not I would be content to take them above 72.10, I don't know yet, considering it's at 72.40. We've got quite a large area of previous support, and more recently that has acted as previous resistance. I'm not convinced that it makes the most sense for us at this point to be looking at longs above 72.10. With that in mind, that obviously we have those potential areas. So I think we just need to be a little bit careful surrounding that and seeing where we go from this morning. But for the time being, obviously we can just keep an eye on it, see what happens. For those that are in it, then fair play. Obviously we did have an opportunity yesterday with the failure to break the previous highs, to get a short entry. Again, not really something that I was not too intrigued or too interested in at the moment, but the opportunity was certainly there. Pound Oz. Now, with Pound Oz here, we obviously broke through a large consolidation region yesterday, and that's quite significant for the pair. With that in mind, obviously, we've come back and we look to be retesting the area of support What we will need to do then is obviously wait and see how we react. As things stand, obviously, we know that the Aussie dollar has weakened off a little bit this morning. The higher time frames has definitely given ourselves some indication. We've broken the previous lows and obviously closed below that previous resistance region and support region yesterday. So there's a lot of positives there that are kind of giving us an indication that we might be seeing some potential downside movement as to be the most logical and highly probable scenario at the moment. But when we go a little bit lower, we need to start marrying these time frames up. This would be the ideal place to see that lower high form if we were going to see it. Just as things stand at the moment, obviously, we do have a weakened Aussie dollar, and as a result, we need to be a little bit mindful before we start to fly into potential positions. One thing I want to have a quick look through at some point is the potential for pound New Zealand. And while we're here, let's just have a little look at pound Swiss. So obviously, Swiss franc gained some strength yesterday, which was nice. We saw that rejection away, breakthrough rejection away, and that push back to the downside. I'm fairly confident that we have been triggered into a position on that. Let me just make sure though. So yeah, we were triggered in at 28.90. So we're currently running about 60 pips up in that pair at the moment. So we should be around about 2% up, which is obviously a nice position to be in, especially considering there's Euro USD and Euro Oz for me at the moment are running in slight losses. So that's always a positive. We let that continue and do its thing, coupled with the fact that we are still very much in profit on Euro CAD. We are looking good. So yeah, cool. Let's go back to Pound Oz because I want to watch for a potential entry on the pair there. So things are looking positive. Things are looking pretty good with regards to movement surrounding the pound at the moment. Swiss franc seems to have gained some strength. I do want to go back and have a look at Aussie CAD in a minute, with the fact that we are starting to weaken off a little bit. That will be quite interesting to see how that is moving. Obviously, we were triggered into that. That's currently running 35 pips to the good also. Came back and retested our entry price yesterday and overnight. That's absolutely fine. But we're running good on that with the Aussie weakening off this morning. That plays into our hands too. So a positive there also. So that's always a good thing. So those positions that were planned from last week have finally triggered and come good. We're running a decent amount of pips up between those, best part of 100 pips between the two pairs there. Turning our attention to the Canadian dollar. Obviously, the pound Oz situation is as a result of the Aussie dollar weakening, not the pound strengthening. So pound Oz, pound CAD, obviously we've continued to see that drop to the downside. This was obviously a position that we were looking at from 73.50 and that breakthrough. We spoke about it yesterday. Obviously, we then saw massive rejections away and the opportunity to take that short position. Broke through, retest as we would have wanted to have seen, and the drop to the downside. Everything that we would have wanted out of a potential breakout scenario. So as things stand there, that is running to the good. About 60 pips up at the moment, so obviously that's all good. That will continue to run now. I'm fairly confident of hitting our target at 72 whole number. Although we do need to be very mindful of the lack of pullback here. That could happen at any point, so we do just need to be very mindful of that as a possibility. But for the time being, we'll just let the position run. can take it risk-free if you want. I don't really see too much potential to jump into other positions or other entries at the moment. We can possibly look to enter again at 72.50 and ride the extra 50 pips down if we wanted to, but that's really down to personal preference and to whether or not you want to do that. There is no real need to do that. We can just let our original position run for the time being. A positive though, always nice to be in profit on that. Euro CAD, like I say, we are still involved from 50-50 last week. Just letting that do its thing for the time being. We need to keep a little bit of an eye on it, just for the potential to push back up. Obviously, we failed to break back below 48.50 at the moment. So whilst we're running 200 pips to the good, which is always a positive for us, we do need to be very mindful of the fact that we are failing to break, and that we could potentially see a push back to the upside as a result of that. As things stand, obviously, we know that the euro is strengthening up a little bit, so we can definitely expect to see some form of little push back to the upside. But for the time being, more than happy to let the position run. There's no point looking too far ahead at this point in time, I don't think. Things are looking fairly good, so we'll let them do its thing. We always expect the price to stall a little bit around this region, hence the reason that it's highlighted. It's doing exactly what kind of we would expect to see it do. If we break back above 49.20, 49.30, then obviously we might have to look to re-evaluate our position. But for the time being, we'll let it do its thing. Gold. Gold's obviously one of those that moves very, very quick, very, very fast. So we do just need to keep an eye on how that moves at the moment. My initial kind of thoughts and feelings towards gold as things stand are that the upside is probably the most likely scenario, with the US dollar looking at weakening off a little bit so far this morning. When we look at New Zealand dollar, that's not showing quite so much, but certainly with the Euro USD, we can expect to see gold push up. If we break above 17.40, naturally we'll be looking to take the long. If we fail to break above that region, then obviously we will look to come back to the downside. We will just wait that out, see what happens, see how we progress. But as things stand at the moment, I'm not interested unless we get through 17.20 or we get through 17.40. I know that that's a couple of hundred pips just left on the table, but with regards to the pair at the moment, there's no real direction. Certainly US pairs seem to be waiting for that Fed data later on this week. Aussie Swiss, I just want to take one quick glance over as well, seeing as the Aussie dollar's weakened off and we've seen the Swiss franc gain a little bit of strength this morning. With pound Swiss, I don't think we've been triggered in as of yet on the pair. We were looking for an entry at 71.20, so that's definitely not happened yet. So we will continue to let that progress, let that ride out, see what happens there. But yeah, it was just one that I wanted to glance my eye over very quickly. Pound CAD looks to be kicking on. Aussie dollar doesn't look great. Euro definitely gaining some strength. We have to keep an eye on that throughout this morning. But yeah, apart from that, there's not really a lot going on this morning, I don't think. Certainly not fundamental wise. I believe that the only real significant things today are the US retail sales. I'm not 100% on that. Let me just have a little look. I'm pretty sure that the US retail sales are the only thing of significance to us this morning. We had Bank of Japan overnight. So yeah, retail sales at 12:30 today for the US, and then obviously we have Bank of Australia speech as we enter into a new day tomorrow morning. And obviously tomorrow is the big day for the US dollar and the pound on Thursday. So it's only right that we're kind of seeing these little bit of price stalls, these situations in the market where we're just seeing price not do a great deal. I think once we kind of break into the week a little bit more and we start to see some positive or negative data come out, then obviously we'll start to see some bigger movements. But for the time being, like I say, we have our options. New Zealand USD, we just need to wait for either the lows or the highs to be taken out. Either way, we just need to be patient. Euro Oz, as things stand at the moment, I'm about to be stopped out on it. That sucks a little bit, but so what? It's a little bit surprising. Obviously, we've got an accumulation of euro strengthening up and the Aussie dollar weakening off this morning, which is an ideal combination. As things stand at the moment, potentially above 450, then we potentially look for the longs back up. Makes sense to try and recoup some of the loss from today. If obviously we break down below 33.50, then we will look for that short. I think below 54.10 will lead to the short, but as things stand, obviously not getting any signs that that's the probable scenario. So closes above 54.50, 54.60, that kind of area will probably lead to potential long positions into today. Pound Oz, really and truly now I just want to see a close back below 79. Get a close below 79, probably going to look to take the short on that. The pound doesn't look particularly strong this morning. Waiting for its data and fundamentals later on in the week, and monetary policy, which will really shape how things are going to move now that we've had the budget, etc. out. But yeah, all the time that we're trading now below that support region, it makes perfect sense to look towards the downside. Euro USD, still very much fancy the downside, but as things stand, obviously we are seeing a stronger euro. Dollar's not particularly strong this morning, but again, 1880 is our entry. That's what we're waiting for. That's what we're looking for. So we will wait that one out. Me personally, yes, I am in it. I am running ever so slightly in a loss. My entry was at the consolidation at 20, so I'm about 5 pips down, so that's not an issue. Pound CAD, obviously we should already be in. If we are not, then we can potentially take a position at 72.50, looking for the extra 50 pips. If not, and you got your entry, then fair play. Like I say, you're currently running around about 80 pips to the good. Euro CAD running about 200 pips up, so 150 pips up at the moment, so we're all good there. Breaks back above 49.20, probably just look to take all the profit off the table and then potentially look to go again below 48.50. Gold, highs or lows, 17.40 or 17.20. Anything either side of those, not worth it. Pound Swiss and Aussie CAD, let those positions run if you are part of the trade plan group and you've got those setups. But yeah, apart from that, watch out for lunchtime. I hope everyone has a decent day, whatever you're up to, and I will catch you all later.